The small research ship drifted through the asteroid belt as Lisa Morgan guided it with steady hands. Her mission seemed routine: collect mineral samples from the outer reaches and return to Earth. She had done similar missions many times before, and expected nothing unusual this time. The silence of space was broken only by the soft beeps of her equipment. Lisa enjoyed these solo missions away from the noise and politics of Earth. She checked her instruments, making sure everything was working correctly. The ship was small, but had all she needed: a lab, sleeping quarters, and enough food for several weeks. Lisa was about to take a break when a loud alarm made her jump. She rushed to the control panel and saw something on the scanner: an unidentified ship caught between two large asteroids. This was not in any of her briefings. She hesitated, her finger hovering over the communication button. Protocol said she should report this and wait for instructions. But something made her pause. The ship was unlike anything she had seen before, with a curved purple hull that seemed to change colors like oil on water. Her scientific curiosity won over caution. Lisa adjusted her course to move closer to the mysterious vessel. As she approached, she could see the ship had taken serious damage. Large sections of the hull were torn away, exposing the inner chambers. There were no signs of life, no distress signals, nothing to indicate survivors. Still, Lisa felt drawn to it. She ran a quick scan and was surprised to find the ship had an atmosphere that humans could breathe. Lisa knew she should call Earth Command first, but the thought of waiting days for a response while something potentially groundbreaking waited just meters away was too much. She prepared for a spacewalk, securing her suit and making sure she had emergency supplies. She would just take a quick look, report her findings, and be a hero. The journey between ships was tense. Lisa used her thrusters, carefully avoiding the debris floating around the damaged vessel. She reached what appeared to be an entry point and found the airlock still functioning. With a deep breath, she cycled through and stepped into the alien ship. The interior was fascinating. Everything was built in, curves with no sharp angles or corners. The walls seemed to glow with a soft blue light that responded to her movement. The air smelled sweet, like overripe fruit, but her suit sensors showed it was safe to breathe. She removed her helmet and took a cautious breath. Lisa moved deeper into the ship, taking pictures with her suit's camera. She found what looked like living quarters with strange furniture designed for bodies different from human ones. In the control room, she saw symbols and writing she could not understand. She was about to turn back when she heard a sound. A soft chirping came from behind a fallen panel. Lisa moved closer and carefully pushed the panel aside. What she found made her gasp. 5 small creatures huddled together, their bodies covered in soft scales that shifted from deep blue to green as they trembled. They had large almond-shaped eyes with vertical pupils and 4 limbs that ended in delicate 6-fingered hands. Around them lay what Lisa assumed were the bodies of adults of their species. The scene told a tragic story. The adults had protected the young ones at the cost of their own lives. The smallest creature looked up at Lisa and made a chirping sound that somehow conveyed both terror and desperate hope. Lisa knew she should be afraid. These were aliens, completely unknown life forms, but something in their eyes, something in the way the small one reached toward her, broke through any fear. She knelt down and spoke softly. "I won't hurt you. I'm here to help." She reached out slowly, and the smallest alien hesitated before extending a tiny limb to touch her hand. The alien scales shifted to a soft pink color, and the chirping became less frantic. Lisa smiled, trying to appear friendly and non-threatening. She pointed to herself. "Lisa," she said, then gestured to them, raising her eyebrows in question. The aliens didn't respond in a way she could understand, but the fact that they hadn't fled or attacked seemed promising. Lisa realized she had to make a decision. She could leave them here and report her findings, hoping a rescue team would arrive in time, or she could take them with her against protocol, against all common sense. Lisa looked around the ship again. It was failing systems, shutting down. These young aliens would not survive long enough for help to arrive. Their homeworld could be anywhere in the galaxy, and the chances of finding it were virtually non-existent. She made her choice. Working quickly, Lisa gathered what she assumed was food from the ship's strange containers filled with glowing crystals and liquid. She found small objects that might be important to the aliens, toys perhaps, or educational tools. Then she faced the most difficult challenge, convincing the aliens to come. With her, Lisa sat down near them and began to mime eating, sleeping, and then pointed to her ship. She repeated this several times until the largest alien seemed to understand. It made a series of clicks and the others responded. The group slowly uncurled from their protective huddle and moved toward Lisa. She led them carefully through the damaged corridors back to the airlock. The smallest one clung to her leg, while the others followed at a short distance. When they reached her ship, Lisa helped them inside, amazed at how light they were despite being about the size of human 5-year-olds. Once safely aboard, Lisa sent a message to Earth Command. Discovered alien ship with survivors. 5 juvenile aliens appear non-hostile, bringing them to Earth. Request immediate preparation for their arrival. She knew the response would not be positive, but she had made her choice as her ship pulled away from the damaged alien vessel. The 5 young creatures gathered at the viewport, watching as the only home they had known disappeared into the darkness. Lisa wondered what would happen to them now. Would Earth welcome them or fear them? Would they ever see their homeworld again? The smallest alien, the one with scales that turned pink at her touch, moved to stand beside Lisa. It made a soft trilling sound and pressed its small hand against hers. Lisa felt a wave of emotion she could not name but understood perfectly. She would protect these creatures whatever it took. They were now her responsibility. That journey back to Earth would take weeks. Lisa knew she would need to learn to communicate with her new passengers and prepare them for what awaited them. She hoped she had made the right choice. As her ship turned toward the inner solar system, Morgan had no idea that this moment would change not just her life, but the course of human history. Earth Command was predictably furious when Lisa reported her full findings. Bring unknown alien life forms to Earth. Are you insane? Morgan Commander, Diaz shouted over the comms, her face red with anger. You have violated at least 15 protocols. Lisa stood her ground, facing the video screen with determination. They are children. They need care. I can provide that. Until we figure out where they came from, they would have died if I left them. The argument continued for days as Lisa traveled toward Earth. Scientists, military officials, government representatives all took turns trying to convince her to change course to a research station in orbit. But Lisa refused. The young aliens were frightened, confused, and needed stability, not more trauma. After weeks of tense negotiation, Lisa was finally given permission to land under strict conditions. The aliens would be housed in a special facility with Lisa as their primary caretaker. But under constant observation, a team of scientists would study them while trying to determine their origin. The facility turned out to be a modified research center in the desert outside Phoenix, Arizona. Lisa named it Starfall Home. The building was surrounded by high fences and security, but inside Lisa worked to create a comfortable environment for her charges. She was given a team of scientists, but she insisted on being the one who spent the most time with the young aliens during the journey to Earth. Lisa had begun the difficult process of communication. The aliens expressed themselves through chirps, whistles, and color changes in their scales. She started by naming them after stars: Vega, the largest and seemingly oldest Sirius, the one with darkest blue scales; Rigel, the most energetic; Polaris, the quietest; and little Capella, the smallest one who had first reached out to her. The first weeks at Starfall Home were challenging. The aliens were placed in quarantine while doctors ran tests to ensure they carried no diseases harmful to humans. Lisa stayed with them despite warnings about unknown risks. The 5 young aliens slept huddled together in a nest of soft blankets, their scales turning deep blue in slumber. Lisa worked with linguists to develop a common language. Meanwhile, she learned their preferences through trial and error. They enjoyed water, spending hours in the small pool installed for them. Their skin needed moisture, and they drank far more water than humans. Their diet consisted of synthesized proteins and the crystalline substance found on their ship, which scientists determined contained essential nutrients for them. Little by little, Lisa earned their trust. She read them stories, showed them pictures of Earth and its many inhabitants, and sang songs that made their Scales ripple with color. They learned to distinguish her from other humans and would become agitated when she left even briefly. The first breakthrough in communication came 3 months after their arrival. Lisa was showing Capella pictures of animals when the small alien pointed to a cat and made a sound Lisa realized was an attempt at the word. She spent the next hours excitedly helping all 5 aliens associate simple English words with objects. By the end of the first year, the aliens had learned basic English. Their vocal structures could not form all human sounds, but they tried their best. "Lisa, you return," Capella would say when she entered their living quarters each morning, her scales turning bright yellow with happiness. This time scientists made discoveries about the aliens. They were a species that communicated primarily through color changes and soft sounds. Their home planet likely had lower gravity than Earth, explaining their light bodies and slightly awkward movements. Their eyes were sensitive to light spectrums humans could not see, and most importantly, they were highly intelligent, quickly absorbing new information. Lisa learned they called themselves the Vrolani, and their homeworld was somewhere in the Andromeda Galaxy. Their ship had been part of a scientific expedition when it was caught in an unexpected wormhole and thrown into our solar system. The adults had sacrificed themselves, using the last of their ship's power to keep the children alive. As the aliens became more comfortable with human language, they began to share stories of their world. They spoke of forests, where the trees changed colors with the seasons, of cities built into mountainsides, and of festivals where their people would gather to share color songs. The scientists recorded everything, building a database of Vrolani culture. 18 months after their arrival, Lisa fought for and won the right to take the Vrolani outside the facility. The first trip was just to the desert around Starfall home. The 5 aliens stood beneath the open sky, their scales shifting through a rainbow of colors as they experienced Earth directly for the first time. "We like this place," Vega said, looking at the vast landscape. "Very different from home, but beautiful." Lisa watched as they explored, touching rocks and plants with careful fingers. They were especially fascinated by a small lizard they found hiding under a rock. Their scales mimicked its pattern, making Lisa wonder if their ancestors had used this ability for camouflage. The Vrolani grew slowly compared to human children. After 2 years, they appeared only slightly larger than when Lisa had found them. Scientists estimated their lifespan might be several times that of humans. Lisa sometimes worried what would happen to them after she was gone, but pushed these thoughts aside, focusing on giving them the best life possible now. 3 years after coming to Earth, the Vrolani were allowed to meet selected visitors. Children from local schools were the first to visit after careful preparation. The human children were initially shy, but curiosity soon overcame caution. Within hours, the Vrolani were playing simple games with their visitors, scales flashing with excitement. "Can they change color like chameleons?" one human child asked, watching Rigel's scales shift from green to blue. "Better," Rigel replied proudly, demonstrating a complex pattern of colors that rippled across his body. "We show feelings this way: happy, sad, curious. All have colors." Lisa watched with pride as her charges navigated their first major social interaction with humans, other than the staff at Starfall home. The Vrolani were natural diplomats, curious about others and eager to share their own culture. It gave her hope for their future on Earth. Not everyone was welcoming, however. Outside the facility, protests occasionally erupted. Groups worried about alien invasion or contamination demanded the Vrolani be removed from Earth. Others claimed they were being held against their will and should be set free. Both views frustrated Lisa, who wished people could see what she saw. 5 children trying to make sense of a new world. 4 years after their arrival, a team of astronomers confirmed the Vrolani's account of their origins. They detected traces of the wormhole that had brought the alien ship to our solar system. It had closed, but its signature matched the Vrolani's description. The scientists calculated that even with the fastest human ships, it would take centuries to reach the Vrolani homeworld. The 5 young aliens were effectively stranded on Earth. When Lisa explained this to them, their scales turned a gray-blue color of sadness, but there was also acceptance. "We know this," Polaris said. "We cannot go home, but perhaps someday our people will find us." or we will find a way to reach them. Until then, Earth is our home, and you are our family. 5 years passed since the Vrlani had come to Earth. Their small bodies grew taller and their understanding of human culture deepened. Lisa had developed a curriculum for them, combining standard human education with what they remembered of their own culture. They learned mathematics, science, history, and art alongside stories of their homeworld Starfall. Home expanded from a research facility into something more like a school. The security became less obvious, though still present. More human. Children were allowed to visit, and some even attended classes with the Vrlani, learning and playing together. Scientists still came, but now they were as likely to learn from the Vrlani as to study them. Lisa watched with pride as her adopted children mastered subjects that challenged many human students. Vega showed remarkable talent for mathematics, solving complex equations with ease. Sirius was drawn to biology, particularly the study of Earth's diverse ecosystems. Rigel loved music and had learned to play several instruments, adapting them to his 6-fingered hands. Polaris spent hours reading human philosophy and comparing it to Vrlani beliefs, and little Capella had become an artist, creating works that combined color, light, and sound in ways that moved humans deeply. When Vega reached the equivalent of adolescence by their best guess about Vrlani development, she began to challenge Lisa. Why we stay in this place? Vega demanded, her scales flickering with orange patterns that Lisa had come to recognize as frustration. We want to see Earth, not just pictures. Lisa understood their growing desire for freedom and fought for more rights for her charges. Initially, she won small victories. A trip to the Grand Canyon, where the Vrlani stood in awe of the vast space, their scales reflecting the red and gold of the rocks. A visit to the ocean, where they discovered a natural joy in swimming, their bodies moving through water with grace humans could not match. A journey to see snow in the mountains, where they built strange sculptural snowmen with too many arms and eyes. These experiences enriched the Vrlani's understanding of their new home, but also highlighted the limitations of their lives. They were not prisoners, but neither were they free citizens. Their status remained undefined. They belonged to no nation, held no passports, could not travel without permission. Lisa became their advocate, fighting bureaucracy at every turn. She gave interviews, wrote articles, and met with government officials, arguing that the Vrlani deserved rights recognition and a path to something like citizenship. Not everyone agreed. Some scientists still viewed them as research subjects. Others worried about setting precedents for future alien arrivals, and some simply feared what was different. 7 years after their arrival, the oldest Vrlani, Vega, was invited to speak at a United Nations special session on non-human intelligence. Lisa sat in the audience, watching with tears in her eyes. As Vega addressed the world, "We come to your world by accident, not choice." Vega set her scales a calm blue with ripples of gold. "We lost our home, our parents, everything we knew, but we found new home here with Lisa. She teach us your ways, your languages, your sciences. We are not human, but we live human lives. We learn, we grow, we hope to contribute to Earth as Earth has given to us." The speech was broadcast worldwide and changed public perception of the Vrlani. They were no longer just fascinating aliens, but people with thoughts, feelings, and hopes. Many humans sent messages of support to Starfall home. Some even offered their homes if the Vrlani ever wanted to live among humans more fully. With increasing public support, the restrictions on the Vrlani gradually eased. They were allowed to visit universities, museums, and natural parks. They attended scientific conferences where their unique perspectives provided new insights. They even gave interviews to carefully selected journalists. 8 years into their life on Earth, the Vrlani reached what Lisa and the scientists believed was their species' equivalent of late adolescence. Their bodies had grown to about 2/3 human height. Their knowledge had expanded enormously, and they had begun to express desires for their future. Sirius wanted to become a marine biologist, fascinated by Earth's oceans, so different from the shallow seas of their homeworld. Rigel dreamed of creating a new form of music that combined human instruments with Vrlani color harmonies. Polaris wished to study interspecies ethics and philosophy, and Capella hoped to establish an art studio where she could teach humans to see colors as the Vrlani did. Vega, however, had the most ambitious goal. "I want To help humans reach stars, she explained to Lisa one evening as they sat watching the night sky. I learn your physics, your mathematics. I think Vrolani knowledge can help. You have equations. We have different ones. Together, maybe we find better ones. New ways to travel through space. Lisa listened with a mixture of pride and sadness. Her children were growing up planning lives that might take them away from her. Yet isn't that what all parents want? Their children to find their own paths. The Vrolani continued to develop their unique identities. They decorated their rooms differently, chose their own clothes styled after human fashion, but adapted to their needs, and formed distinct friendships with humans who visited Starfall home. They began to request more privacy and independence, causing Lisa both joy and concern. Lisa, you are smothering. Rigel complained when she reminded him to drink enough water, his scales flashing pink and orange. I know what my body needs. I am adult now by Vrolani. Standards, Vega added. I should be allowed to travel without supervision. These conversations reminded Lisa of human teenagers asserting their independence. She had to learn when to hold on and when to let go, a challenge for any parent, but especially difficult when parenting a different species. 9 years after their arrival, a group of linguists and Vrolani scholars completed the first comprehensive Vrolani English dictionary and grammar. The project had taken years, with the Vrolani struggling to explain concepts that had no equivalent in human languages, particularly those related to their color communication. With this breakthrough, the Vrolani began teaching selected humans their language. A few dedicated students learned to recognize the meanings of different color patterns, though no human could reproduce them. The Vrolani in turn became more fluent in English and began learning other human languages as well. 10 years into their life on Earth, the Vrolani were recognized as refugees with limited rights. The observation became less intrusive, and Starfall home evolved from a controlled environment to something more like a cultural center. The Vrolani were still studied but now participated in designing the research. They had bank accounts, could order items online, and were paid small stipends for their contributions to scientific papers. It was during this time that Lisa heard the word that would change everything. She was hosting a community gathering where humans and Vrolani shared a meal celebrating 10 years since the aliens' arrival. Rigel was explaining to a visitor how he had learned to cook. The human language word for female parent does not fully capture what Lisa is to us. Rigel said, in our language, the closest term is Zuvala, one who gives life where there was none. But in your terms, mother is close enough. Lisa froze, her heart suddenly too big for her chest. She looked around and saw the other Vrolani watching her, their scales rippling, with shades of deep blue, the color she had come to associate with their most profound emotions. That night, Lisa sat on the roof of Starfall home, with all 5 of her children now nearly grown. They watched the stars together, as they often did. Do you ever wish to go back home? Lisa asked, wondering if they dreamed of the world they had never known. Polaris, the most philosophical of the 5, turned scales, shimmering in the moonlight. Home is not a place. It is where one belongs. We belong with you. You are home. The words filled Lisa with a joy she had never expected when she first found 5 scared alien children in a damaged ship. A decade had passed, filled with challenges, victories, and growth. Now, as she looked at the 5 young Vrolani, she saw not aliens, not research subjects, but her children, and they saw her not as a caretaker or teacher, but as their mother. 21 years after the crash of their ship, a historic announcement shocked the world. The Vrolani homeworld and Earth had agreed to establish direct contact. A delegation would travel between the galaxies using a stable wormhole created through the combined knowledge of both species. The question of who would represent Earth was quickly answered. The 5 Vrolani raised by Lisa would lead the mission alongside selected human scientists and diplomats. They were the perfect bridge between worlds, understanding both cultures and trusted by both sides. Lisa watched with mixed emotions as preparations were made. Her children were going home, or at least to the world of their ancestors. They would see the planet they knew only from stories, and meet others of their kind. For the first time, they would not be unique or different, but part of a larger community. Will you come with us, Mother? Vega asked as they sat together at Starfall home. The others looked at Lisa, their scales showing. patterns of hope and concern. Lisa hesitated. The journey would be dangerous, the outcome uncertain. She was not young anymore, approaching 60. And yet how could she refuse this chance to see the world that had produced the 5 beings who had become her family? I wouldn't miss it for anything, she finally said, causing a wave of color to wash over the 5 Vrlani. The months before departure were filled with preparation. The Vrlani studied everything known about their homeworld, comparing their childhood memories with information sent by their people. The human delegation learned Vrlani customs, language, and biology. Lisa underwent medical treatments to ensure she could withstand the journey and the different environment of the Vrlani world. 22 years after Lisa had found 5 frightened alien children, they boarded the ship that would take them to Andromeda. The vessel, named Horizon, was the most advanced ever built by humans, incorporating Vrlani technology. The journey would take 3 months using the stable wormhole, a fraction of the time it would have taken with conventional travel. During the voyage, Lisa spent hours with her children reminiscing about their life together. They remembered the early days at Starfall Home, the challenges of learning to communicate, the gradual acceptance by humans, and the achievements that had changed 2 worlds. I never imagined when I broke protocol and brought you to Earth that it would lead to this, Lisa said as they gathered in the ship's observation room looking out at the stars. How could I have known you would become bridges between galaxies? You saw children who needed help. Capella said simply, the smallest of the 5 who had grown into a renowned artist. That was enough. Everything else followed from that moment of compassion. The arrival at the Vrlani homeworld was overwhelming. The planet glowed with cities built into natural landscapes. Structures spiraled upward in curves and whirls, so different from human architecture. The colors were intense, vibrant in spectrums that human eyes could barely perceive. The air was thinner than Earth, but rich with sweet scents. The 5 Vrlani stood on the surface of their ancestral home, their scales shifting through complex patterns too fast for Lisa to interpret. She understood this was emotion too deep for words. They had returned to a place they had never known yet that was encoded in their very being. The welcome was elaborate. The Vrlani people had prepared for years for this moment. The 5 were treated not as returning children but as heroes. Their journey, their growth on an alien world, and their role in connecting 2 civilizations were celebrated in color displays and music that filled the sky. Lisa was honored as Zuvala, mother across species. The concept held deep meaning in Vrlani culture. They explained that in their oldest traditions there were stories of those who nurtured life, not of their kind. The ability to see, personhood beyond physical form, was considered the highest evolution of consciousness. In the days that followed, the 5 Vrlani introduced Lisa to their homeworld. They showed her forests where the trees communicated through color changes, vast oceans filled with creatures that glowed in the dark, and cities where art and science blended seamlessly. For Lisa, it was like seeing the source of her children's talents and perspectives. The diplomatic meetings were productive beyond all expectations. The 2 species found they complemented each other perfectly. Humans with their linear thinking and bold experimentation, Vrlani with their pattern recognition and holistic approach. Together they began planning joint ventures in science, art, and exploration. After 6 weeks on the Vrlani world, Lisa noticed changes in her children. They had absorbed the culture of their species, integrating it with their Earth upbringing. They spoke more often in their native language, their color patterns becoming more complex. Their movements adjusted to the planet's gravity, becoming more fluid, more natural. Are you happy here? Lisa asked them one evening as they watched the planet's 3 moons rise. We are whole here, Vega replied, but we are also whole on Earth. We are fortunate to belong to 2 worlds. The question of where they would live remained unspoken but growing in importance. As the diplomatic mission neared its conclusion, decisions had to be made. Would the 5 return to Earth? Would they stay on their ancestral homeworld? Or would they divide their time between planets? Lisa knew whatever they chose would shape her own future. She had dedicated over 20 years to raising these extraordinary beings. Could she let them go if they chose to remain among their own kind? She was growing older while they were just entering their prime by Vrlani standards on the final night before the Earth delegation was scheduled to depart. The five, Vrlani took Lisa to a sacred place, a natural amphitheater where the planet's unique crystals amplified sound and color. There, in the presence of Vrlani elders, they performed a ceremony rarely witnessed by outsiders. The five stood in a circle around Lisa, their scales shifting through patterns that told the story of their rescue, their life on Earth, and their return home. The colors merged and flowed between them, creating a living tapestry of their shared journey. As the ceremony reached its climax, the five spoke in unison. Two worlds now know what we have always known, that the greatest force in the universe is not technology or physics, but the capacity to love what is different from yourself. The humans have a word for that too. It is called being a mother. Lisa felt tears on her cheeks as the five surrounded her, their hands gentle on her shoulders. The Vrlani elders approached and presented her with a crystal that shimmered with changing colors. "This will allow you to see our communications fully," they explained. "It is given only to those who are family." The decision came the next day. The five would divide their time between worlds, serving as ambassadors in the truest sense. They would bring Vrlani knowledge to Earth and human perspectives to their homeworld. They would continue their work bridging the gap between species and Lisa. She chose to return to Earth with them for now. Though the Vrlani world fascinated her, Earth was still her home, but she would visit often, watching as her children helped forge connections between civilizations separated by vast distances, but united by curiosity and hope. 25 years after Lisa Morgan had broken protocol to rescue 5 alien children, a permanent embassy was established on Earth, staffed by Vrlani diplomats and scientists. The building, designed by Capella, incorporated elements of both worlds with spaces that shifted and changed with the visitors' emotions. On the day of its opening, Lisa, now in her 60s, stood with her 5 children greeting visitors from both planets. She watched as humans and Vrlani conversed, shared ideas, and built relationships that would shape the future of 2 galaxies, Vega. Now the chief scientific liaison between the species leaned close to Lisa. "We have come full circle, Mother," she said, her scales glowing with the deep blue of profound emotion. "You gave us a home when we had none. Now we help create a home where both our peoples can grow together." Lisa looked at her 5 children, now leaders respected on 2 worlds. What began as an impulsive rescue had grown into something that would echo through history. The boundaries between species, between worlds, had been crossed through an act of compassion as the celebration continued. Lisa thought about the long journey, from that damaged alien ship to this moment of galactic significance. She remembered 5 scared children and how they had grown into bridges between worlds. She thought about the word mother, and how its meaning had expanded across the stars. That night Lisa sat with her 5 children, now all grown and accomplished, looking up at the stars visible from Earth. Among those distant lights was the Vrlani homeworld, too far to see with human eyes, but forever connected to Earth through bonds of family and friendship. "The universe is vast," Polaris said thoughtfully, "but perhaps less lonely than we once believed. Each connection we make, each bridge we build, makes it smaller." Lisa took the hands of the extraordinary being she had raised, feeling the smooth scales against her aging skin. From the moment she had first reached out to touch a frightened alien child to this moment of cosmic significance, one truth remained unchanged: the greatest discoveries come not from exploring space, Lisa said, but from opening our hearts to each other. The 5 Vrlani surrounding her shifted their scales to match a single color. The deep, pulsing blue that Lisa had come to know meant one thing: love. A love that had crossed species, galaxies, and the vastness of space, a love that had changed worlds. 12 years after the Vrlani arrival, they had grown into young adults. Their bodies reached their full height, about 5 feet tall, with slender builds. Their minds had developed in ways that combined Vrlani instincts with human education, creating unique perspectives that bridged both worlds. The Vrlani were now allowed to leave Starfall home for extended periods. They traveled to universities, research centers, and cultural institutions around the world, always accompanied by Lisa or other Trusted humans. Vega spent months at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, working with physicists. Sirius participated in oceanographic expeditions. Rigel performed his music in concert halls. Polaris lectured on comparative ethics, and Capella exhibited her art in galleries where humans stood mesmerized by her living color creations. The world had largely accepted the 5 Vrolani. Some religious groups claimed they were messengers from beyond, while others declared them demonic. Most people, however, simply viewed them as unusual refugees who had enriched human culture. Children who had grown up seeing the Vrolani in news reports or educational programs found them less strange than their parents did. Vega made the first major breakthrough in her work with MIT physicists. By combining Vrolani mathematical concepts with human theoretical physics, she helped develop a new understanding of wormhole formation. The paper she co-authored became the most cited scientific publication of the year. Her scales glowed with pride when she showed Lisa the journal. "See, Mother, I told you Vrolani knowledge could help humans." Vega said our people studied space folding for generations. Lisa hugged her alien daughter carefully, mindful of the sensitive. "Scales, I never doubted you for a moment," she replied. The other Vrolani made their own contributions to human knowledge. Sirius discovered compounds in ocean creatures that had medical applications. Rigel created a new musical notation system that incorporated color dimensions. Polaris published essays on consciousness that challenged human philosophers, and Capella's art therapy techniques helped trauma survivors express feelings they could not put into words. 14 years after their arrival, the question of Vrolani citizenship became a global debate. Should non-humans be granted the same rights as humans? If so, which country would claim them? Where would they vote? What passports would they carry? The discussions were complex, involving legal, ethical, and practical considerations. Lisa testified before government committees advocating for her children. "They have lived among us for 14 years," she told the officials. "They speak our languages, follow our laws, and contribute to our society. They deserve recognition as people with rights." The debate might have continued for years, but events forced a decision. Vega was invited to present her research at an international space conference in Singapore, but was initially denied entry because she had no citizenship. The incident caused public outcry. Scientists threatened to boycott the conference. Humans who had come to know the Vrolani through media or personal encounters demanded better treatment for them. 15 years after the crashed ship was discovered, Earth made history. The Vrolani were granted special status as resident non-human persons, with most of the rights of citizens. They could now travel freely, own property, and receive payment for their work. They still held a unique legal category, but it was a massive step forward. To celebrate, Lisa took her 5 children on a world tour. Their first truly independent journey as a family. They visited the pyramids of Egypt, the Great Wall of China, the rainforests of Brazil, and the fjords of Norway. In each place, the Vrolani absorbed new experiences, their scales shifting through colors of wonder, excitement, and joy. In Tokyo, they visited a robotics laboratory where engineers were creating machines inspired by Vrolani movement. The lead scientist, Karen Wu, had corresponded with Vega for years but never met in person. She greeted them with a deep bow and words in carefully practiced Vrolani language. "I am honored to meet the family who changed how humanity sees the universe," Karen said. "Looking at you, we realize how much we have yet to discover." The Vrolani responded with a color display that needed no translation. Gratitude, respect, and friendship visible in the patterns flowing across their scales. The years passed. The Vrolani began to live more independent lives. Vega moved to California to work with aerospace companies. Sirius established a research station on the Great Barrier Reef. Rigel traveled between music conservatories teaching his unique approach. Polaris divided time between universities around the world. And Capella opened a studio in New York where she created commissioned artworks. Lisa remained at Starfall Home, which had become a cultural center where humans could learn about Vrolani culture and history. The 5 returned often for holidays and important occasions. They never forgot where their Earth journey began. 17 years after their arrival, Vega announced her most ambitious project yet. She had been working with engineers at a private space company developing new propulsion systems based on Vrolani principles. The theory was revolutionary, combining concepts no human had considered before. We believe this could reduce travel time to Mars by 70%, Vega explained to Lisa, showing her the designs. The scales on her face patterned with excitement. This is only the beginning. Lisa studied the complex diagrams, understanding only portions of the mathematics behind them. But she understood the implications. If Vega succeeded, space travel would change forever. The Vrolani have such different minds than humans. Vega continued, "You think linearly. We think in patterns. You see problems. We see connections. When we work together, we create solutions. Neither would find alone." Lisa smiled at her daughter, grown now into a scientist whose work might change the course of human space exploration. "Who would have thought when I found you huddled in that broken ship that someday you'd help humans reach the stars?" she said. "I did," Vega replied, her scales rippling with humor. "You saw potential in 5 scared children, others saw specimens. We became who we are because you believed we could." 18 years after their rescue, the Vrolani helped humanity. In an unexpected way, a deadly virus emerged in Southeast Asia, spreading rapidly and resisting treatment. The Vrolani volunteered to help study the pathogen. Their unique biology gave them immunity, and their different perspective on biological systems proved valuable. Serious working with human virologists identified a weakness in the virus that led to an effective treatment. His discovery saved millions of lives and brought new attention to the Vrolani contributions to Earth, our biology different, but complementary to yours, Sirius explained in interviews. Our immune systems evolved to fight different threats. Together we see more complete picture. The gratitude of the global community translated into greater acceptance of the Vrolani. The 5 aliens were no longer curiosities but respected members of society. Their advice was sought on matters ranging from scientific research to diplomatic relations with newly contacted non-human intelligences. 19 years after Lisa found them, the Vrolani established the Interspecies Understanding Foundation with funds from their various projects. The foundation promoted education about extraterrestrial cultures, prepared humans for possible future contacts, and advocated for ethical approaches to alien species. "We were lucky Lisa took us in," Polaris explained at the foundation's opening ceremony. "She saw us as children. First aliens. Second, future contacts may not be so fortunate. We must prepare humanity to meet difference with curiosity, not fear." The foundation became influential in shaping policies and public opinion. Its recommendations were taken seriously by governments and international organizations. The Vrolani had become not just residents of Earth, but its ambassadors to the greater universe. 20 years after their arrival, a remarkable opportunity emerged. Scientists detected unusual signals coming from the direction of the Andromeda Galaxy. The patterns matched what the Vrolani described as their people's communication methods. After careful analysis, experts confirmed what seemed impossible. It was a Vrolani transmission. Vega worked day and night with communication specialists trying to establish contact. Their efforts succeeded beyond all hopes. Not only did they reach the Vrolani homeworld, but they learned that the wormhole that had brought the 5 young ones to our solar system had been studied by Vrolani scientists for years. "They have been looking for us," Vega told Lisa, her scales flowing with colors of joy and disbelief. They never stopped searching. The contact led to formal communication between Earth and the Vrolani homeworld. The adult Vrolani shared technological and scientific knowledge with humans, while humans shared art, culture, and their experience raising 5 Vrolani children. Lisa found herself the subject of great interest among the Vrolani people. The alien who had raised 5 children of another species was studied, discussed, and ultimately honored. The Vrolani sent a message directly to her. "You did what our highest teachings command: care for the young of any species as if they were your own. You are Zuvala to our children and therefore to all Vrolani.